Okay, I call the July 14th, 2025 school board meeting to order. It is 6:02 p.m. We are in conference room C of the Fisher Administrative Building at 12121 West North Avenue. Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
She's excused.
Mr. Bauer,
Here.
Ms. Bach,
Here.
Mr. Morris,
Excused.
Ms. Hammer-Walland,
Here.
Dr. Worley,
She's excused.
Mr. Wadier.
Here.
Okay, and we do have quorum this evening. First thing on our agenda for tonight is the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Ms. Heimer-Wallen, board members. Tim, I would, if you could please bring the presentation up, that would be great. It's daunting to say, but I will say it publicly. We are about 6.5 weeks away from the start of the school year. And while it's 87 degrees outside and it's wonderful and we're in the midst of summer, we are very busy getting ready for the upcoming school year. We're really excited and want to share some updates in this superintendent update on where we are with things. Thank you, Tim. And we can go to the next slide. I'd like to always start by grounding us in what our mission statement states. The mission statement should drive our behaviors as stakeholders in our school community. Not only if you are an employee, but if you are a constituent that wants to see the best out of our school system. Our mission statement reads, "We serve as active advocates to provide equitable access to excellent academic, co-curricular, and social emotional learning opportunities that empower every student to thrive as passionate, productive, and creative citizens." And so when we go to that mission statement, what's at the core? What's our call to action? We're designed with equity at the center of our work. We want to make sure that we integrate academic and non-academic supports for all of our students, and that we measure our success for our students holistically. If we can go to the next slide, too. That's at the core what we do for our students. Oops, that's okay. Let's go to the next slide. That's good time. And this is also this presentation has been uploaded on board docs. So if you want to get a version of it and review it yourself, that would be great. Our vision is very clear. We want to ensure an exceptional student experience for all students. We want to eradicate inequity. We want to eliminate disproportionality and achieve proficiency for all. When I arrived in the school district, the community and the board was very clear with me that they wanted us to focus on our achievement gaps and that we had to be purposeful in making sure that we are creating an excellent student experience for all students, just not for some students, but for all of our students. I'm really excited to dig into this work more in August. Dr. Marble and her team have been looking at the ACT performance of certain student groups in our district, and we're really excited to share some of that information with you. And so when you look at our vision statement, the call to action is one that is a moral imperative, not a slogan. We must reject isolated success or islands of excellence. And I shared that article with our community a few years ago of islands of excellence. We can't be satisfied with just having islands of excellence, but we have to make sure that we're committed to system-wide transformation to ensure that every student is receiving the best educational experience that they can. This is not optional. This is not something that is a choice, but it's the foundation of our work. So what's going well in our district right now? If we can go to the next slide, Tim. Can't. I'll get there. Okay. Okay, outstanding. So what's going well? What's happening in our system? The first session for our summer school ended this past July 10th. We started the second session of summer school today, July 14th. The numbers here are staggering, I believe. We have one of the largest summer schools when you consider suburban school systems in CISA 1. We have a total of 876 students enrolled in high school credit courses. That's a lot of students. And then we have another 208 students enrolled in high school enrichment courses. We have a total of 1,178 students enrolled in our junior kindergarten through fifth grade summer school program, and another 187 enrolled in our middle school program, for a grand total of 167 FTE or full-time equivalent staff members who are working with our kids across the summer school program. Many people will always ask the question, why do we have a position identified and focused on preparing for summer school coordination throughout the school year? We have that position because this is a major undertaking for our community. Many of our families are dependent on our summer school program. I want to take the time to thank all the teachers, not only teachers who are Wauwatosa School District employees, but also educators from other school systems who come and work with our kids through the summer. I also want to take the time to thank Mr. Steve Oliver, Department Chair for the Social Studies Department at Wauwatosa West. He does a wonderful job in coordinating our summer school program. So, why is summer school important? Well, there's three real major reasons. One, it offers academic enrichment for students. For some of our students, they can't afford mathnasium. They can't afford a tutor. And so summer school is really important for those children to ensure that we're not creating opportunity gaps for kids. It builds literacy stamina. And what I mean by literacy stamina is that we are continuing to keep books and keeping academic literacy in the forefront of our students. And it prevents the summer slide. There's a term called the summer slide for children who maybe they step away from academic work throughout the entire summer. When they come back to the school year, we see something called a summer slide where they regress and they fall backwards. The summer school here in Wauwatosa makes sure that we prevent the summer slide. And then finally, it supports development of academic skills for students of all ages. Just as a side note, I want to just share with the board and the community, there should be a special article that'll come out soon from the Journal Sentinel. There was a reporter at Summer School Today interviewing current first grade students who are going to second grade. And the article is a cute story. It's going, the first graders, or now the rising second graders, are giving advice to incoming first graders on what they should expect from school. And I think I'm thankful to the Journal Sentinel for recognizing the good work we're doing with our summer school and also interviewing our students. Some of the advice that the Journal Sentinel reporter heard from our students was truly precious, and I think you'll enjoy the article. Let's go to celebrations. Last meeting, I shared with you a video of our high school graduations, and they were great celebrations. But I just want to make sure that the community knows that we have a 93.6 graduation rate when you consider Wauwatosa East, Wauwatosa West, and the Wauwatosa Virtual Academy. If you take East and West alone, we have nearly a 95% graduation rate. And that, I know the print is somewhat small, is some of the highest graduation rates we've had in our organization over the last 5 years. That's something to celebrate. But if we can go to the next slide, what I'm even more excited about is that when you look at demographic groups, we're seeing an increase in the number of students, specifically students of color, who are graduating from our organization. And this is important to know, that the Wauwatosa Virtual Academy is an off-ramp for students who are seeking graduation. And so I don't want to have them as an afterthought. We're seeing that a lot of our children who are also identify as either Hispanic or African-American, we're seeing an uptick in that graduation rate as well. I'm proud of that work, and our teachers deserve a lot of credit for making sure that these young people are getting the courses and the requirements that they need. And there is a connection between what we do with summer school and what we're seeing with our high school graduation rates. Focus on equity and that work has been really the forefront, been on the forefront in the center of our work as an administrative team in this board. And I just wanted to share this good news. More good news. Our advanced placement scores, as you all know, College Board offers something called advanced placement courses. In the spring, those young people then take a course and they take an examination. That examination, in some cases, for many of our universities, if you get a certain score, typically a 3 or above, you can gain college credit. Well, we had a total of 78.9% of our students gain a 3 or above, highest rate of students reaching that 3 or above that status and plateau in the last 5 years. I want to thank our teachers. I want to thank our Division of Academic Performance. Dr. Marble and her team made sure that our teachers were supported. And when we talk about support comes through the means of professional learning and giving teachers time to talk with one another and to plan with one another. And Dr. Marble and her team were very explicit and deliberate around creating those supports for our teachers. And the result was that the teachers were better prepared to work with our young people to get them ready for those exams and look at the results. We're really proud of those results. But again, let's focus on our work around equity. We're grounded in our mission and our vision. You will see, look at that uptick of the green bar for students who identify as African American and the number of those students and the percentage of those students who are achieving a 3 or above. Or take a look at the number of students who identify as Hispanic or Latino. That number has increased. Again, this coincides with the fact that our administration made sure that we were providing supports and financial opportunities for young people to take AP exams. We want to close down those opportunity gaps that persist in so many school districts and persisted here in the Wauwatosa School District. We're breaking down those barriers. We're being very purposeful around this work. Again, I want to thank our teachers first and foremost because they are on the front line of making sure that this work happens. I want to thank Dr. Marble and her team for the support that they provided. And that when we talk about the concept of support, that's what support looks like. Provide teachers with the professional learning, with the resources, with the time so they can prepare to do really good work. So I want to just bring us back to what does the state expect? If Tim, we can go to the next slide. You may ask, how did we get these results? Sometimes when you have good results, people are skeptical. They'll say, well, how did that happen? We know what we did. We focused on specifically standard number 2 and standard number 4, where we made sure that teachers had time to plan with one another and that we also created opportunities to utilize assessments for and of learning to ensure that we are measuring accurate progress for students. In the month of August, we will provide you an update as a board around the change in the grade system that we used at the secondary level last year. And we believe that while there was some growing pains with that change in the grading system, that this work coincides with what you're seeing with the AP results, that the work really is grounded in standard 4, assessment 4, and assessment of learning. Just have a few final comments and then I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair. The state budget, it has been finalized. You'll hear from Mr. Ecker a little later in the meeting around this. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I have a link here from the Wisconsin Homeowners Alliance website, where they've done a quick 30-second commercial to say that homeowners, property owners shouldn't be saddled with the fact that the legislature has refused to give general aid to public schools. What happens in school systems across the state of Wisconsin, if the state legislature doesn't provide general aid, then school districts typically go to the taxpayers through the form of an operational referendum. We're seeing record numbers of operational referendums continuing to come to the forefront. Now, I want to be very, very clear. There has always been different opinions around how school districts should spend money, and that's going to always be there. But what I believe is not debatable is if the legislature continues to fail to not give inflationary increases to public schools, we're going to always find ourselves in this situation because the costs don't stay static. The costs will not stay static in terms of how much it costs to operate a school system. Utilities continue to go up. Costs to pay strong employees continue to go up. And if that's not offset by the legislature and giving general aid, something has to give. And what we heard in our community, and what I continue to hear in our community, is that we want the very best for our children. We want to see the results that I've just shared with you around AP results and graduation results, but there's a cost that's associated with that work. I have mixed opinions about the budget. On one hand, I'm concerned that there isn't any general aid increase from the legislature. That's a concern. The increase in special education reimbursement is a step in the right direction, but more is needed to serve all of our children and families well. So I'm mixed. It's a mixed bag of how I feel about things. Again, Mr. Ecker will tell you that overall, we still have a long way to go. We have registration that needs to happen between now and the start of the school year. So it's important for families to register so we know how many students will attend our schools. Then we have the third Friday count that comes, and we have to make sure that that's an accurate number. That's important. Typically in early October, then there's the final identification of aid that is provided to school districts through the Department of Public Instruction. And then finally, the last Monday in October, Mr. Ecker will come back to you and ask you to finalize the budget. So there's still a lot of steps to go, but just wanted to share with you that I'm mixed, but overall, the state budget was a slight positive for our district. And then I'll conclude by just sharing with you the next slide, please, Tim. We continue to see good numbers with our voluntary teacher retention rate. We're at 91.7. Contrary to statements that there's an exodus in the Wauwatosa School District, that's just not accurate. We are retaining our staff. I was just reading an article this past week that stated that in most industries, we're seeing retention numbers somewhere in the area of 85 to 80%. So for us to have the threshold of 90% is strong, and right now we're still at a good flip here of the 91.7. The teacher fill rate is at 95.2. We're having some struggles in identifying special education teachers. But that is a challenge that we've had in our industry for a long time. Special education teachers come at a premium, and all of our teachers are special, but they definitely have a hold on the marketplace in terms of vacancies. So I just wanted to share that information with the board. And then I'll just go to our last slide, which is in the Wauwatosa School District, we're united. We have a shared purpose. We may disagree on how certain things may get done, but I hope that we are all focused on our shared purpose, that every student, every story is our priority. And that work means that when we do our jobs well, all students succeed. And that we have to make sure that we are closing opportunity and achievement gaps. If we do this, we will fulfill our promise of public education, not only in Wauwatosa, but the state of Wisconsin. So I just want to thank you for your support of equitable public education here in Wauwatosa School District. We have a lot of good things to celebrate. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share it with you. You may have some questions for me, so there's space for that, but that's what I have.
Thank you.
Yes.
Does anybody, board members have questions?
I can certainly ask some questions. I was going to ask them during the consent agenda portion, but just about the fill rate. What does the normal cycle of how the teacher fill rate looks like? So what should we be looking for by August 15th? What should we be looking for by the beginning of the school year? And is that accurate, or is that the same for teachers as it is administration? Principals, APs, that sort of thing.
Ms. Olazowski.
Sure. Good evening. So for school districts, based on the cycle of our employment terms, We will establish our fill rate for 2025 in September of this year, in which we've done the past several years. I would say that there is, if you think about employment arrangements, if you think about year-round staff, there can be changes throughout the school year for staff who work year-round, non-contract, that is. Typically, you'll see a little bit more volatility in our hourly school year staff than you would in years, for instance. And then as you continue to think through the different employment classifications, we'll see very little volatility in terms of teachers once the school year starts and their contract time has started. Very little change in administrative positions again after July 1. So we will lock in on that retention rate in September. Last year we were right at or just above 90%. I'm expecting that that's where we're going to land again this year. And other school districts are experienced, I would say, like we did, more volatility in like 2, 3, 4 years ago and are now settling at what their rate is.
Sure. So like the hiring season for teachers should be wrapped up by September.
Correct.
And then what is the hiring season, so to speak, look like for contracted administrators, principals, that sort of thing?
Yep. So that typically starts, I would say, in February, March, and that's typically concluded by now. By July 1, most school districts have all of their staff in place.
Excellent. That's what I would have on this.
Seeing no more questions, we will move to the public comment portion of our meeting. Members of the Wauwatosa School Board value the input of students, parents, staff members, and community members. The board's regularly scheduled meetings provide an opportunity for opinions and concerns to be expressed publicly. The board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision-making. The board requests that individuals limit their comment on each item to 3 minutes. Following any comment, an individual board member may respond on the issue raised. However, it is not the intent of the public comment portion of the agenda for the board to enter into a debate with members of the community. Because non-agenda items are not publicly posted in advance, no action will be taken on public comment regarding non-agenda items this evening. We'll start with people in the room who have public comment or who have comment. Heidi, do you want to time the 30 minutes? And then Mr. Bauer will be monitoring the 3 minutes per speaker. As a reminder, when you see the yellow sign go up, that means you have 1 minute left. And then when the red sign is up, you have used all 3 minutes. Do we have anybody in the room tonight who would like to provide public comment?
Hello, my name is Bob Doherty, and I am a soon-to-be second grader at Madison Elementary. I currently have some very big concerns about the staffing situation that's going on there. According to the district staffing report that I got from the district's website last night, every single 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader, a 5th grade teacher next year will be new to the school. If you include teachers that we've had leave in the middle of last year and the year before, that means 8 teachers have left Madison in less than 2 years. So while the retention rate of the district is good, there does seem to be an exodus going on at Madison. This much staff turnover does not lead to a great learning environment for the students. While I understand that some teachers might move or go to another district for better opportunities, 8 teachers in that time frame seems to be an insane amount. In my experience, people tend to leave their boss, not their job. It seems like something must be going on with the administration that would make that many teachers want to leave. My request to the school board would be that you guys would look into what's going on with the leadership in Madison. Our kids deserve the best learning environment, and it seems like the kids at Madison are not currently getting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else in the room have comment tonight? Okay. Jamie, is there anybody online?
We do have one hand raised. Kelly, you have the microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kelly Goldman. My address is 1846 71st Street. And I just wanted to call to thank the board and the administrative team. I'm one of several parents and community members who submitted a request for you all to consider the policy 5120 for intra-district transfer after some conversations with PTA leaders within the district about how that policy was sort of playing out and creating an imbalance in the elementary populations, and also possibly perpetuating sort of the islands of excellence that we're trying to move away from in our district. And I see that on the agenda this evening, the reading of the new policy, and I think it really thoroughly addresses a lot of the concerns that we had about that policy and the way it was being used. So I just wanted to say thanks for being responsive and for the thoughtful analysis. And I'm hoping that moving forward, like Dr. Means said just a moment ago, this policy will help continue or help focus a little more on creating wonderful, robust enrollment and environments at all of our elementary schools so that all families and all students have a great experience. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you.
We do have another hand raised.
Okay.
Chris Merker, you have the microphone.
Today, the 2030 Task Force released part 2 of the XCOR report, building on May's findings. The pattern is clear: a systemic governance failure harming students, educators, and public trust. Since May, 24 whistleblowers and counting have stepped forward from across the district, describing retaliation, intimidation, and administrative misconduct. Madison alone had 10 former and current staff and teachers into a single detailed whistleblower account. And now, as Dr. Means speaks on equity, the Department of Public Instruction has flagged Wauwatosa for racial disproportionality in special education and low performance among Black students. On some equity metrics, we rank among the lowest districts statewide. How can this board continue to look away while schools like WSD, McKinley, Madison, East, Eisenhower, and Underwood suffer systemic harm? When educators speak up, they're punished. When families raise concerns, they're dismissed. State agencies have issued flags and acknowledged complaints. The community is watching, and not just the community, but also those outside the community. You have the evidence, you have the reports, you have the power. What more do you need to act? Thank you.
There are no more hands raised.
Okay. With that, we will conclude the public comment portion of our meeting. Moving to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda which board members would like to remove for separate discussion and action? Okay.
Not necessarily, well, yeah, one or just general discussion.
Okay. What item?
I.
Oh, the last ADA and.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I have right in my mind, so this is one of our first major projects from the building referendum. And I would just wanted to point out that it is an ADA improvement because I've heard a lot of criticism from others in the community that the vote for the money was precedented on us doing ADA improvements and prioritizing them, and then saying that we are not doing that. And I wanted to point out that we are in fact doing that and making it a priority. And I hope that people are paying attention to that.
Thank you for making it. Seeing no other items that we would like to discuss or remove, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
It is recommended that the school board approve the consent agenda, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski, Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris, Ms. Heimer Roland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley, Mr. Wadier,
Yes.
So that,
Madam Chair, may I just point out that under consent, items E, F, G are annual policies that must be updated, and that's a requirement. And then also, I just want to highlight C and D. As always, the generous gifts of our community is appreciated. And we go every meeting with some type of generous gift that is provided to our schools in some way, shape, or form. So, and Mr. Wadier, thank you for your for mentioning I, because yes, there was significant concern and energy around, are we making proper ADA improvements at all of our schools? And Mr. LaFountain is very busy making sure that this work is so thank you for highlighting.
moving on to item number 5, strategic goal 6, operations. We'll start with the presentation of architectural engineering planning services. I believe is that Mr. Fountain and Scott. That's correct. Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening. Can I find the attachment through, is it in the folder?
Should be, Tim, I think you have it already.
Got it. So in your packet is a concept agreement between in principle provided by PRA and Zimmerman Design Group. The purpose of what we're going to talk about here is we sent out an RFP for architectural design and engineering services related to work that will be ongoing for the secondary ad hoc committee, and then any subsequent efforts to take the modeling that we've talked about or any other modeling further. And with that, we need to partner with a professional design firm that can help guide the district and the ad hoc committee through that process. So the RFP was sent out. We sent it out to firms that responded to our 2024 referendum work, architectural and design work. And those firms were PRA and Zimmerman. Through analysis of the fees that were provided, we were approached and by PRA and Zimmerman with the concept of kind of having the best of both worlds to approach the advice that we're seeking from the firms. That being that PRA, having a long familiarity with the district, is currently engaged in some of the secondary ad hoc work ongoing. And then bringing to the table another architectural with their expertise, their ability to do more facility assessment for secondary schools and act as the architect of record. So the concept for discussion is essentially PRA would lead the district, advise the district in that planning work. And then upon any work that might occur as a result of the secondary planning efforts, if there were already construction or remodeling, Zimmerman would be have an agreement with the district to assist the district with that and any potential referendum planning that might result. Everything.
Do you know, I'm sorry,
And I'm sorry, I wanted to introduce, if I may. This is Nick Kent from PRA and Stuart LaRoche from Zimmerman Design Group. They obviously PRA has a long history with the district. Zimmerman does as well. They have a long past history on projects for the district as well. So they are available for any questions you may have as well.
Questions, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You said we reached out to and asked for bids from groups that interacted with us for the 2024 referendum process. How many was that?
So in 2024, I sent the RFP out to, I believe, 5 architectural and design firms. Only 2 responded, and those 2 were PRA and Zimmerman.
Okay.
So that's what we're,
And both of those responded. That's why they're here.
both PRA and Zimmerman, both correct.
Jason?
And assuming the reason that we have both on one proposal is that we have a large scope of needs and you're going with a divide and conquer. Each group take the area that they are the most efficient in and have the most expertise in and try to help us make sure we're on budget, correct?
I think the budget would not necessarily be in play here. Maybe some conceptual budgeting might occur with partnership with a construction firm as well. I think you characterize it very well. We're going to have the familiarity of PRA and their current work they're doing right now in tandem with another firm that has great experience in the educational market. And I think those fresh eyes on our secondary facilities and the advice they can give us on those will be a benefit to the district. So yes, that I think you characterize it very well.
Go ahead.
I didn't quite understand when you said about budget. This proposal, is it already budgeted somewhere? Is it like where does the 2 numbers I'm seeing on the screen under fee structure, where do those live in our finances?
I'll let Scott answer that, but essentially the PRA fee would be for that secondary ad hoc consultation, modeling scenarios and so on, and educational program. And the Zimmerman fee of 67 would be for the in-depth facility analysis of all secondary schools. And I'll let Scott speak to the budget.
So I think the question that you're getting at, Jason, is will it be on budget and did we budget for it? So to both those pieces, we were able to budget in it for 25-26 for work they're assisting relative to the ad hoc committee, which may or may not bring a recommendation for facilities to the board. So any cost beyond what's in this contract would be a separate essential item for the board relative to a referendum that may or may not happen. This is just to get us to the point of figuring out what it is we need at the secondary schools and their combined work, and the cost won't exceed what's there. Thus, we're able to budget for it this year.
I'm sorry, I thought you were referring to any budget for construction going forward.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know like what buckets we were talking about.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then are you going to go over the capital improvement plan as well? Item B? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, Steph. And I'll just add, holding on that, the next meeting will have contracts for the board to review as well, the official EAA documents that are mentioned here.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item. So in front of you, in the attachment is a document that many of you probably have seen already. This is a 2-year plan for the capital improvement projects that the board has approved. And I think since the first approval back in January of 25, formal approval, there's been revisions to this as project scope and costs were further refined on projects as projects were completed. And as we had emergency issues that occurred over time and they were added to the capital improvement plan. So this plan was again revised and presented to the Financial Resource Committee last month. So what I'll highlight here are some changes. as you look through both columns identified at each school, we have a water main replacement that was an emergency repair. That's a estimate, and that project is completed, and I believe it's on the agenda for discussion later. And as we go through, you see that a majority of the projects in 24-25 have been completed. As we move through the document and we focus on the last 2 pages, I'll focus first on the first column. There are a couple projects that are near completion, and as you look at the bottom line, we have approximately $122,000 in value of those total 24-25 projects to complete. Some carryover, I guess, into 25-26 school year, but they are budgeted for, and they're all on budget or under budget. As I point over to the 25-26 column, Scott Ecker and I worked on this together, and it was decided, given the state of the balance of the capital improvement was so low, to reprioritize some of the projects in 25-26. So the items you see for Longfellow, Whitman, and East are what we're considering we have to do. We cannot defer these things anymore. And those would be projects for the 25-26 year. When you look at West, that's probably the biggest change. In order to fill that capital improvement budget back to a healthy balance, it was decided to defer the standby power generator, the unit substation, and electrical remodel at West. And it was decided to defer any roofing improvements at West in an effort to rebuild that capital improvement. The entry canopy remodel, that's something that's failed. The Center Street improvements we're already committed to. And then, as you saw on the consent agenda, we're making those improvements at West on that hillside. Really good project that will coincide with the work on Center Street and really provide a nice finished path for everyone to use. So with that, the revised plan will show a balance as of right now in Fund 41 of approximately $1.2 million.
Can I add a little color here too?
Yes, please.
For anyone that may have watched the Finance and Resources Committee meeting or read the minutes, this is something we also discussed there. To kind of just get some context here, our capital projects fund is at a level now that I'd like to reserve it essentially for emergencies. If we don't have money there for emergencies, then we'll have to pull it from our general fund, which is we want to use primarily for educating students. And given that, and I think the water main leak at Jefferson is a perfect example of something that we did not know would happen, right? And if we exhaust all of our capital projects funds for, even though we know a roof is old, it hasn't collapsed yet. I want us to reserve some money for the unknowns that we do know will happen. And so my concern and talking to Kevin and Finance Committee was if we were to spend all this down, we'd have nothing left for those unknowns that are going to happen with our aging facilities. So you can see now we're calling the balance in Fund 41 an emergency use balance. So instead of planning things out, we know we just have to reserve that for those unknown things that will come up.
Any questions or comments from other board members? Yeah, I'll just share in finance, we also talked about with the work going on with the secondary ad hoc committee that we didn't want to commit such large amounts for projects that may or may not need to be done based on their decisions and what the board votes on for secondary schools. So
I do. Sure. Okay. So this is mostly to Scott then. If we're reserving 1.2 million in our Fund 41, what would be, we should be replenishing that. Is there a plan to be putting money into Fund 41 year over year? Is that part of the 25-26 budget? Is that something that'll come out later in a 27-28 budget? How should or does that look?
I'm gonna maybe answer part of that as part of the state budget update too. But right now, any surplus we have, we're designating for Fund 10 fund balance. Of course, the board could take official action or direct me to put it to Fund 41 instead. From a DPI standpoint, fund balance for either of those could be spent on capital items. Fund balance from Fund 41 could not be spent on anything other than capital items. So there are certain state aid advantages to putting money into Fund 41 and spending it from there. But it puts more restrictions on the board on they have to spend it from there. So I think before we would decide where we want to put fund balance, I'd want to go through with the board the real specific pluses and minuses of having it be in one fund balance versus another. But right now it's all planned to go to Fund 10.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item C, state budget update. So Mr. Eckert will come join us.
Okay, so I used to do a lot of work with Washington school districts. Am I not sharing?
There we go. Now it's
You're sharing? Okay.
Thank you.
And the school districts in Washington, their fiscal year runs September to August, so coincides with academic year. But they would always complain to me about how their state budget wasn't done in May, and their fiscal year didn't start until September. And I always thought, boy, I wish I was complaining about 3 months of lead time. And what I'm getting at is, honestly, the state did a pretty good job getting this done relatively quickly. I remember years where we were well into July before we had anything from the state. There's also years where it's done in April or May. So we're kind of on par for the course here. That said, I was just on a webinar on Friday with WSD as they were outlining their interpretation of what's in the state budget for education. The week prior to that, I was on a WASBO webinar and they were outlining things, and there's differences in interpretation from one week to the next. So I bring that up because to say we're still working through the exact impacts on our district. And as Dr. Mean said, for the purpose of the budget publication we'll be approving later, that the deadline for print was prior to the state finishing their budget. So what will be presented to you later for adoption and on July 28th at the budget hearing is the most conservative revenue budget. I am certain things will get better from there. And I want to go through the spots where I think where I know they'll change. I just don't know how much yet as we're still working through that. So the first thing is our July 1st aid estimate. We were anticipating, we've got, I'll continually give credit to the past administration who built our debt for the 2018 referendum in such a way that, frankly, we found a loophole in the state aid formula that saves us, I just looked it up, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20 million to saving taxpayers since 2018. So what that does is 1 year, we get a whole bunch of state aid, and the next year we get less. Had we not found that loophole, we would just get less every year. So this is one of the years we were anticipating less. And that's essentially about where we are, where the July 1st estimate is about $187,000 less than we had budgeted. That won't be finalized until October, but that's right around the right ballpark. That has no impact on our budget because whatever we don't collect in state aid, we can collect via the revenue cap on property taxes. So more state aid would help property owners, less state aid hurts property owners, but no impact on the actual budget itself. The big win for all school districts is the special ed aid increase. That's going to be we anticipate around 10%. It's a big positive for us. From a budget standpoint, there's no impact on property taxes and no impact on policy. Open enrollment tuition, and this is the thing that changed in the 1 week in between. Initially thought it was going to go up about 20%. It's still going up about 10%. That's a positive to our budget. Without us, we're not taking any more students. We're just getting more for the students that we already said could come. So that's a net positive. It has no impact on property taxes. From a policy standpoint, once we know exactly what those dollars are, I would like to cost out for the board again, what our best strategy is going forward, given that we're receiving more money than the last time we costed that out. Voucher payments. So these are payments that our residents make so that students across the state can go to private schools. This will go up. It has no impact on our budget, but it does have a negative impact on property taxes because we levy, as well as every district in the state levies, to send money to private schools across the state. Another win is our high-cost special ed. It's going up to about 90% reimbursement. Now, for our district, I mean, that's good, but to give you a frame of reference, that's about triple what it currently is. This year, we're anticipating, or last year we got right in the middle of years here, 24-25 that just finished. Our revenue was about 200,000 for that. So if that triples, well, it's about 600,000. So another win for us. Again, that's just a positive to the budget, no impact on property taxes. And finally, the state decided they had a clerical error. And this is one of the items I've been talking about all year where I wasn't sure whether the money was going to stay in the revenue cap or land outside the revenue cap. So they have moved this Act 12 money, which was essentially they determined a one-time money outside of the revenue limit, back into the revenue limit. So this will have a negative impact on our budget. It'll have a positive impact on property taxes because essentially it will look like more state aid. The positives, though, overall are going to outweigh the negatives from a budget standpoint. So I anticipate, what you'll be approving on July 28th, is a budget with about $1.2, $1.3 million as surplus. I would expect in October, when you have final budget approval, it will be greater than that. But again, there's lots of steps to go through. Third Friday count we mentioned. So that'll include our residents, non-residents, how many are going elsewhere. We'll have staffing finalization, and finally the state will certify their state aid to us on October 15th. And then by November 8th, I believe we need to certify the levy. So the board normally certifies the levy the second board meeting in October.
Any questions from the board?
Scott, so regarding the open enrollment, 20% tuition increase, even though this year's incoming minimum was set to 0 new students, the existing students, the reimbursement for the amount for them is 20% higher, which means it may go from a cost to a surplus per student.
So yeah, and it's not going to be 20%. That was as of this writing, and then I learned later it's probably closer to 10 to 15%. I think the most difficult thing with open enrollment is what is the marginal cost of adding one student, right? Let's say we have and I don't have the class size ranges memorized. But if we have 16 first graders at Eisenhower, and we add a 17th first grader, the marginal cost of that student, whether they're our own student or an open enrollment student, is essentially zero. And I believe that probably when Wauwatosa started aggressively adding open enrollment students, it probably was, right? The old analogy is if you fill seats on a plane, it doesn't cost any more to fly the plane. But if you reach that tipping point where you need to add a second plane, that's when things get out of whack. So I think that what the board is working on right now is right sizing open enrollment. We didn't just tap the brakes, we slammed on the brakes as far as having new students come. Given though this additional money available, I think it at least warrants another study so that I can come back to the board and say, hey, this is still the right decision or not.
I think it warrants another study, but I would also want us to revisit the reasons why we went down to zero to begin with. And, history tends to repeat itself. The reason it was brought up in the beginning was it was a way to generate revenue in a tight time, which is where we are right now. And I wouldn't want us to have it flip on us then in a few years and then we regret it. It is a full, how many, is it a full 12 years for them to phase out? So it's a 12-year decision. All right.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to discussion of the Jefferson Elementary School water main repairs. Is that you as well?
So I think I can cover this. Kevin, jump in if I miss anything here. So we had a water main break at Jefferson. If any of you have summer school students that were going there, we were very worried about having access to water and keeping the building open or not. So this is one of those things that we could not control, right? So the water main break, I'll tell you as best I know it, thought was going to be a relatively easy repair. It kept breaking at different spots in the line. That is not my expertise, but I understand what that means is we had to keep fixing it. It got to be a bigger project that we had to rip up the city's concrete and asphalt to get it fixed. That means that we have to repair that to get, all the way back to where our ownership of that pipe begins. So as Kevin highlighted, we estimate that cost to be about $70,000. We'll give you updates as we go when it's complete. But I don't, this is just an example of, I don't know that the community or board has been made aware in the past of when these types of emergencies happen, how we address it. So it's simply creating an awareness that these things happen. And if we want to maintain having a school open, we have to have water.
Any questions on this item?
And that would be the remaining purpose of Fund 41.
Exactly.
Remaining
Yep.
balance for when these things happen.
We're hoping there's not a break at a different school, but you just never know.
And that wasn't related at all to there's a lot of construction going on in that area. Was the water main break related to that, or was that completely separate than the city's construction?
You may be referring to all construction traffic.
Well, they're tearing up a lot of the roads over there. Was that? Yeah, all roads, completely separate. Okay. I have to try. Okay, thank you. All right, moving to action to approve budget for publication.
So I will be asking for action for this, so that the state requires that our proposed budget be published in the newspaper prior to the budget hearing. It's kind of weird because you're not approving the budget here. You're approving that it can be in the newspaper. And then at the budget hearing, you would actually approve the budget. So the format here this isn't something I made up. This is the required DPI format for per state statute. At the budget hearing, you'll get much more, you and the public, you get much more explanation in I think a more meaningful way about what's in the budget. Again, this is simply state statute.
Any questions?
Um, uh, and would you mind if we took a step back? Can you run us through how, what the calendar looks like for the budget, right? So we're going to have the hearing, we're going to approve the budget on the 28th. What else is going to happen to the 25-26 budget over the course of the next 12 months? And then when does the work for the 26-27 budget begin?
Sure. So maybe I'll back up further with how 25-26 work, because that's essentially how 26-27 will work. We'll bring so 25-26. We brought a multi-year projection to the board. I believe it was December. And at that time, also gave the board preliminary estimates for things like staffing numbers, salary increases, so that I could build that projection. So everything starts with that in, I'll call it early winter. The next step for the board, I believe, was probably maybe around February, where I just gave an update on here's the projection for, it would have been 25-26 at that point. I think, I should, the board also, there's a budget calendar the board approved either October or November. So that happens, that's the first step. That's actually referenced in our budget booklet that you'll see on the 28th as well. So throughout the spring then is updates as necessary to the board on if anything significant has changed. This marks the first time that you're actually approving anything. July 28th, you'll approve what we'll call it a preliminary budget. And October, you'll approve a final budget. You'll approve a tax levy at the end of October, very beginning of November. And then the new process that we put in place is if there are any changes that are going to affect the fund balance throughout the year, the board would approve those. So we wouldn't normally bring a proposal to the board. An example I like to use is if West High School wants to move $50 from social studies to science, that's not something we bring to the board for approval. But if we had to hire an emergency staff member, and that's going to impact fund balance, that would be something we bring to the board for it be a revised budget.
Okay, so October will finish the 25-26 budget approval process once we certify the levy. Correct. And then almost immediately you're beginning the work on the next year's budget.
Correct. I've always got two budgets going on. Yep. So we'll be monitoring 25-26 and begin work on 26-27.
So if school board members or community members are interested in kind of digging in the numbers and making suggestions, and how would that voice be heard ideally?
So, my role, I believe my role as a CFO is to carry out the vision that the cabinet and the board has. And in large part, a budget is a reflection of the community, or it should be. I think in any governmental entity, or frankly, in my own home, it's hard to agree exactly on how every penny should be spent. And I think I can give guidance there, but if a community member if they wanted to voice how money should be spent, I think that would be something they'd come to the board and have a discussion about. And I would get direction from the board on whether that's a budget priority or not. My job is to carry out the budget as approved by the board.
But that work would begin October.
Correct.
November,
Yes.
December,
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That would allow us to plan, right? For, if someone were to come and say, hey, we need to have this curriculum and we need 4 more teachers, the time for that isn't May. It's, way backed up in the fall so we can start planning, or the board could start those deliberations.
pivoting to July 28th. What sort of information, can you give us a sneak peek? What sort of information are we going to be seeing?
If I had my computer, I would give you a sneak peek. There is, I just printed out a PDF. It's 112 pages. Now, thankfully, there's a digital version that is much easier to follow. But it's lots of graphs, charts. I'm going to have a really slimmed down presentation of the budget, that kind of the real highlights. But there is going to be links and access, and you'll see you can actually view it on your phone. It's I think it's beyond really almost anything anyone in Wisconsin is doing as a method to just really see exactly what's in our budget.
I have no further questions. Thank you. Nice work.
Any other questions from board members? Maybe you can make the motion.
It is recommended that the school board approve the budget for publication, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski, Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris, Ms. Hammer Rowland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley, Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
Moving to item number 6, board governance. We will get a legislative advocacy committee update. Mr. Bauer?
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Morris and I are part of the Legislative Advocacy Committee. We started our work late May and really started to dig into everything. The first thing that we did is we reviewed all of the work of the previous LAC. We reflected on the resolutions that were passed by this board prior to my election in April. And we found that we had 5 resolutions, which is nice. We summarized those things for our electeds, and we sent that out at the beginning of July after our most recent LAC meeting. So we did that. We also reflected on the relationship between the city and the district, and we found good things there. So we sent a thank you letter to our partners there in order to encourage ongoing participation and engagement from our city partners. Concurrently, we started figuring out what we wanted to do as we moved forward. We formalized that structure in a playbook, which kind of outlines where we want to be, ideally by the end of this school year. We'll see how much work 2 volunteers are able to get done along with their community partners. And that step really kind of starts with connecting with and reconnecting with local and state partnerships, figuring out where the interests of our community lie in terms of legislative advocacy, building up that capacity to engage our electives. And I just found this out at the convention here this past weekend at WSD, that September 15th is the submission to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, which is what WSD stands for their January convention, so that we can actually grow our advocacy greater than this district. I'll pause there. That's where we're at and where we're kind of heading in the near future. We have some aspirations that we'll be talking about in our next meeting, which is this week, and I'll stop there.
Any questions from the other board members?
I don't have a question. I think this is really helpful for the community to be able to see what you're doing and maybe to help and be able to work with you on these things. So thank you for putting all of this together. The playbook, I think, is really helpful.
Absolutely. Credit where credit's due. That was Mr. Morris's idea. It was a wonderful idea. And yes, that's exactly right. Because while he and I may have a potential pulpit here to kind of influence our electeds, it's not just going to be our voices that are listened to. So
thank you for your work, Mr. Morris. All right, we will move to second readings and/or action to approve policies. Mr. Bauer, can you read the first one?
You bet.
Please? Thank you.
This would be 7A. It is recommended that school board approve policy 2461, recording of IEP team meetings, and I so move.
May I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll. Sorry, is there any discussion on this item? Okay, Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski, Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris, Ms. Hammer Rolland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley, Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move into first readings of policies, and we have a lot of them to go over tonight. Do we want to take a break before we jump in, or just keep going?
4 minutes, I gotta walk around.
Sure. Perfect. So we'll come back at 7:20 to get a round number.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to readings of first policies. Ms. Bach will lead us in that portion.
Okay, our first policy is the administrator benefits, policy 3425.01. It's the updated policy where there's a broader statement for the health insurance where it just says that it's the plan currently offered by the board. There's a slight change in tuition, the tuition statement.
Any board questions or comments on this policy?
One comment. So really, I'm looking at it like the next, so
Mhm.
A through D are, they're all some variation of each other.
Right, it just covers different employee groups. My understanding.
Classifications, whatever.
And there's no, to follow up, there's no significant budgetary changes that we would anticipate from any of these policies. These are just changes.
Sorry to start on this way, but I do have a couple questions about this set of policies. So for child rearing leave, it says that they can only take it every 3 years. Is that governed by like state or national regulations, or is that a district decision? So if a member or if a staff member had a child or adopted a child this year and took that leave, they couldn't take it again for another 3 years? Am I understanding that correctly?
You are, yes, but this is something more significant than family medical leave, like just 12 weeks off. This is 12 weeks plus finishing out a school year. So this does not prevent anyone from taking their federally approved leave of any kind to be much more significant.
And then I'm just curious, why the holiday pay differs per employment group. Like some get 4th of July off and some don't.
Yeah, depending on when, like what the employee's work schedule is.
Okay.
So most employees don't work over the summer, therefore they don't get July 4th as a holiday.
Okay. Those were my only 2 questions.
Okay, should we move on? Next is 3425.01. I'm sorry, that was the administrator. We're on to professional staff, 3425.02. Same change with the health insurance statement. There was a change in the sick leave that was going to be, we're changing to 4 days per year. And the paid time off would be 7 days. And to refer to the employee handbook for the usage rules of that and add a quarter day.
What, I see some of them are not for, like as far as sick leave, they're kind of all different numbers. What is regulating that?
So the Wauwatosa School District, for the 23-24 school year, entered into a 2-year pilot of all of this paid time off for specifically our teacher employee group. And so teachers right now are the only ones who have a blended PTO and sick leave perspective on paid time off. I don't know who's. Yeah, it is. I'm trying to remember if it's something on here. Okay. This mic isn't working. And it's some. So teachers are the only group that has this paid time off model, which means that they can use leave time for reasons other than medical appointments, or illnesses for themselves or immediate family members. This was a really significant, additional benefit for teachers. None of our other employee groups have that. And then based on, probably some inherited language when there were collective bargaining agreements for different employee groups. There's some variation in paid leave time. For instance, for administrative assistant staff based on the number of days that they worked during the year. A vacation accrual, those types of things. So each employee group has a little bit different leave time practices than the other. Again, based on when they work and in what benefits they've carried through over time.
Will the teaching staff still maintain their just keeping it in one category of PTO time?
Moving forward, what we'll bring forward in the handbook is a combination of 7 days of PTO per year and 4 days of sick leave per year. And then if there's any leftover leave at the end of the year, that's all going to roll into accumulated sick leave that they could use in the event of family medical leave or some catastrophic family illness or injury.
Did you get feedback from teachers on making the shift back to not just only having PTO hours?
Absolutely. So over the course of this past school year in particular, during all of my building visits, staff members who came to visit me, if they weren't specifically sharing with me their feedback about PTO, I was asking them, giving them some examples of things that we've thought about, or things we were considering in terms of the PTO change. Had multiple conversations with representatives of the teachers union, talked with we had some work groups that formed this spring related to our employee survey results. They had feedback as well. So yes, I both solicited and heard a great deal of feedback related to PTO. Ultimately, the change from 12 days total to the 7 and 11 were based on the fact that if we had all staff members who were actually taking the 12 PTO days from a sub standpoint, that would exceed our budget. From an instructional standpoint, we start to experience learning loss if teachers are out of the classroom more than 10 days. And we were looking for a plan that we'd be able to support long-term, that we wouldn't have to keep coming back and saying, oh, we need to adjust this. So we initially thought about bringing forward a proposal that was a total of 10 days overall. And then in conversations with those multiple groups and individual teachers, we're bringing forward the recommendation, or will, with the employee handbook in August, for 11 days total between sick leave and PTO.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Next is the educational assistant benefits, 3425.03. Same change in the health insurance. The plan currently offered by the board is the new statement. The holiday pay changed from 2 to 4 days. And personal leave change. Upon completion of 5 years employment, educational assistance will be granted 2 personal days annually.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Next is 3425.04, buildings and grounds employee benefits. There were a lot of things in here that we talked about. Same change in the health insurance statement. Instead of accruing sick leave, the days are allocated at one time. Require continuous employment in the buildings and grounds section. So for the post-employment benefits, there was that change. Personal leave, we removed approved by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Relations. And the tuition language changed, similar to the one in the administrator benefits. The scholarship amount, if any received, will be deducted from the district's reimbursement amount. Again, the limitations on use, we removed the Assistant Superintendent of Human Relations. Personal leave upon completion of 5 years and of employment with the building and grounds. Employees will be granted 2 days of personal leave annually, and we also added in half days or quarter days can be taken. Any board discussion? Okay. 3425.05. Is that what you mean? Okay. This is for administrative assistant benefits, same health insurance change. Instead of accruing sick leave each month, the days will be allocated at one time based on their classification, whether it's 10, 11, or 12 months. I think there was still a question about the accumulation of sick days for 11-month employees.
And that is supposed to be stricken. We do not have 11-month employees.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything different. Yep. There's still that, the tuition change, removing the Assistant Superintendent of Human Relations. I think it's all similar to the other ones.
If you don't mind me, Ms. Bach, Julia, on in policy 3425.05.
Yes.
In sick leave, in the first paragraph, there is currently a green section that says blank parentheses blank days for 11-month administrative assistants. That is should not be added.
I will let Dr. Zimmerman know. Thank you.
So if we would move this forward, I would recommend that we include that language as being.
Now we are on 0144.5. This was reviewed by legal counsel, and the policy, they suggested edits under the enforcement section. And there were just minor changes to section G and in the board member interaction with staff. Any board comments on this item? 2260. This is just updated. It's legally required. Any questions, comments? $22.62. This is a new policy in TOSA, childcare programs. Any questions or comments on this one?
Is this a district run thing, or is this part of Right School?
It could be both.
Because do we have something outside of Right School?
No, not right.
That's what I understood.
2411. School counseling and academic and career planning. This is updated for the academic career planning statutory requirement.
Questions or comments from the board?
2412, also updated to the current policy. 2431 is updated to current policy and legally required. 2451, this is new to TOSA, also legally required. 24,
I guess I'll just pause. If there is a question or comment, just if you want to raise your hand so we can just. Thank you.
2460, a community member requested to change disabled person to person with a disability. So that was changed throughout. This policy also includes the old policy 2460.02 that is legally required, and that was on the consent agenda.
Just one comment there. I like the change of language.
2460.03, also new to TOSA. 5111, updated to current law.
I did have a question about this. Specifically, it says I don't have it in front of me, but calls out alienage. Could we change that language, or is that statutorily required? Could we say like national origin or citizenship status and title? More humanizing, I think, than not say alienage. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Sure.
I don't believe that term is any kind of legally required terminology. I would prefer we use the language that we believe in better. It's better for families and students.
Any other?
Chair, can you please repeat the section that you would like to have updated? Oh, I believe I see it. Letter B, alienage.
It's in B, the last word.
Yes, if we could just change the language of individual language. And yeah, whatever Mr. Kenyon thinks is more.
You can find a better term.
Thank you.
Okay. 5111.01. This is an update of our current policy, and it is legally required.
I do have a question on that one. It's not about policy itself, which I think is just fine. My question is actually about the number of students experiencing homelessness, and how. Well, let's start with that.
Sure. So in the 24-25 school year, we identified at least the most students experiencing homelessness in the 3 years that I've been here at 98. I do think that there likely may be more that meet the definition, so we will continue our efforts around identification and the processes surrounding that.
And then I'm trying to think of an appropriate way to, what supports are available to students in this position?
Yeah, so students experiencing homelessness come to us with, a variety of barriers and in varying degrees of need. We have a homeless liaison who is our social worker downstairs at Montessori. So she is the initial point of contact when we make an identification and supports families through waiving of fees, different school supplies, and assisting in making connections to internal and external resources to remove and identify those barriers and help provide support in each individual case.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, next, 5111.02. Educational opportunity for military children. This is a new policy required by federal law. Same with the next policy, 5111.03. Children and youth in foster care, new policy required by federal law. 5112.01, 5114. This is an update of our current policy for federal compliance. 5120.
I'd like to speak to this one a little bit, if that's okay. So 5120, this is a policy that has been to this board many times over the last several years. Tonight, it is coming to you specifically around the interdistrict transfers, as one of our public commenters mentioned earlier in tonight's meeting. I want to point out just a few pieces of the changes that are here. My office approves or denies these in accordance with this policy, as well as its accompanying administrative guidelines. And what we did was really try to clarify what are appropriate or favorable requests versus more inappropriate requests that might be underpinning the request for the transfer. So you'll see there what qualifications might be considered for more of a favorable approval of a transfer versus transfer requests that don't meet those conditions. And I want to be clear to the community, as the person who fields a lot of these conversations on both ends, people for this more open policy and people wanting to tighten it up. So I get all sides and navigate those conversations. But transfers that don't meet A through D are typically based on reasons such as geographic proximity, school performance of the attendance area school or the school they're requesting, childcare arrangements, keeping friends together, and accessing particular extracurricular activities. The current policy did not have any of this language, so I was quite literally just leaning into the administrative guidelines for different grade level cutoffs, if you will, in terms of class sizes. Those were adjusted this last year as well. You can find those in the administrative guidelines, but I believe this language provides me a lot more clarity as well as the community about what are appropriate or inappropriate interdistrict transfer requests. And I could say if this language had been in here the last 3 years, there would have been a lot less IDTs across the system. I also want to point out the addition on page 4, maybe, if the transfer request is approved, just being very clear about the understandings that come with that. It does not come with transportation. And the receiving school treats that student as if they are any other student in their building. So they're treated as resident students. And any right to remain in that school may be negated if there was any deceit or falsified residency in any way. They remain in effect until graduation. That was a change, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago the school board made. There used to be a reapplication period. And transfer requests for a school in which a sibling is attending will receive a preference, and that word is very important. These are year-by-year decisions, point in time, based on enrollment projections. So there is no guarantee that a younger sibling, the circumstances may look different for that cohort in terms of the grade level that's being requested, the size of that. The intention is never to add staff in split sections as a result of IDTs. I'd also draw your attention to the timeline that we changed. I believe that is in here as well. On the last page, we had historically had these interdistrict transfer deadlines due April 1st with decisions, or March 1st with decisions by April. We are moving that back to February for several reasons. One is there's a bottleneck of all things enrollment at the time that these are due. 2, and maybe more importantly, this offers families more advanced notice on the decisions. So should they have other options or open enrollment, things like that, it gives families more notice. It does require them to be sort of looking out a little bit further ahead. But in the scan of policies across neighboring districts, not only did I borrow some of the language we already reviewed in terms of piecing what sounded good for our district, where the will of the community and this board was from what we've heard over the last 3 years. I also saw a lot of deadlines that were January, February when I was reviewing other policies as well.
Questions or comments from the board?
Okay, 52.
Sorry. I think these are great changes. I think that that's a huge issue in our district is how many of our students are moving around to their non-neighborhood assigned schools. But I have a question. How would these changes affect like a family who say they they live in one area and then they move to another?
So the language still maintains that if you move, you are already counted in those numbers, you get to maintain in that
Okay.
cohort. So they still fill out an interdistrict transfer form to document that move and the request. But the policy still allows that
Okay.
to maintain
So
where
they
they've
started
been
well,
established.
And do
Correct.
they move in through that? So say they move them to from one side, east or west side for secondary schools, do they then?
They would still maintain
still
that
follow
original. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. They would have a right, however, to attend where they live.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, 5215, missing and absent children. This is an update to our current policy.
Hmm.
6108. Authorization to make electronic fund transfers. This is a new policy. It provides clear authorization from the board to the business office to allow electronic fund transfers. And this policy is required for compliance. Are there questions? There will be a lot of policies coming up here with that say that they're updated to current Edgar rules, which are the Education Department General Administrative Regulations from the US Department of Education. So if we receive any federal money, we must have these policies. So the first one is federal funds. And it's just an updated policy. This is another one for Edgar compliance 6111. It's about spending federal money and it is legally required. The next one is 6113. This is a district-specific policy and it was renumbered from 6111. So it's just a change in the number and a couple of small changes. 6112, also legally required for Edgar compliance. Oh. 6114, same thing, legally required for Edgar compliance. 6116, same thing. 6144, this is updated from the current local policy. Investment income is legally required and determines how the district can invest money. 6145 is rescinded. This policy will be replaced by 6147, which is the next one we're going to look at, the debt management, which is a more inclusive policy. So 6147 is the next one. This is the new policy to replace 6145. This one is legally required. The board must have a 2/3 vote in order to borrow money. 6146. This is a new policy that is legally required. Keep going. 6150. This is a new policy, also legally required. The board does not have to allow tuition students, and we currently do not have any tuition students, but DPI requires that we have the policy. 6151 is legally required as an update to the old version of this policy. 6152, also legally required. Just some minor changes. 6152.01. This is a new policy legally required for compliance with DPI regulations. 6210 is an update of our current policy, fiscal planning.
That one I do have questions on. What's the calendar related to updating the facilities plan? I know that we had one that was approved in October, if I recall. But
I'm looking at policy right now. Sure.
Or is that at the will of the board?
No, it's not. So if I may, Mr. Baker, so we have created the pace and cadence of November being the time where we bring the updated long-range facilities plan back to
Perfectly fine.
on an annual basis.
Okay.
Well, let me pause. Do you want to make a suggestion that that's embedded in 6210?
No, because I think it should be the will of the board to set that calendar, and they should have the ability to change it if they so need. Right? If we decide to change, if we, the board, decide to change the long-range plan after the secondary school ad hoc committee finishes their work, we should be able to do that. We should not be beholden to a policy.
So a policy should never indicate an actual date or time in the calendar.
Yeah.
But are you suggesting, I'm just trying to read your question. Are you suggesting that there should be some language that refers to the fact that the board will review the long-range facilities plan on an annual basis? That does not exist.
That does not exist. I read it as maintain the long-range plan, but to me, that is reviewing it regularly and updating it. If that's not the right word there, then yes, we should have something like that, some requirement that we do review it at least once a year. But I read that into maintain the long-range plan. Or at least I understood that to be.
Well, it reads the long-range, short and long-range projections or financial requirements. And then under B, it talks about maintain, but it doesn't talk about review. It's, I just want to make sure that you're as precise as you want to be.
Sure.
And it talks about maintaining. So in essence, what could happen, Mr. Bauer, is that the administration management could maintain a long-range facility plan and not bring it to the board.
That would not be wise.
But that's the way I read the language right now. That could happen.
Okay.
And we could still operate within the language of the policy.
Then yes, could I make that recommendation to the policy committee to update it to bring it up regularly?
On an annual basis.
So we would go back to policy committee for, we get another reading on it.
Yes.
So maintain and review the long range?
B would read something to the effect of maintain the long-range facilities plan and review at least annually.
Yes. That's good.
At a minimum annually.
At a minimum annually, yeah. It doesn't have to be more than once a year, but we should always check it.
But also to your point, if something major happens and we've already done it, and something major happens like that ad hoc committee and the board decides to make a big change, we wouldn't want to wait 4 extra months.
Right.
It also addresses, Mr. Wadier, exactly what you brought up earlier during the consent agenda, which is if there are community members who are concerned about ADA issues, that provides the board the ability to direct a community member to say, if you have a concern in this space, we at a minimum, annually review the long-range facilities. So I thank you for the change.
Yeah, and thank you for identifying the difference in understanding between the word maintain.
Sure.
Okay. 6220. Budget preparation. This is an update of our current policy and it is legally required. $62.30. Same thing, updated the current policy and it is legally required. $62.31. Updated policy and legally required. $62.35, the fund balance. This is the updated to current policy and required. Mr. Powers.
Yes, I do. Thank you. It says in here between what 15 and 30% of our preceding year's Fund 10 expenditures. What is 30% of what is that number in real numbers?
So we had this discussion at policy. We aren't currently in that range. Ballpark, our budget's roughly 100 million. So 15 million to 30 million as a rough estimate.
Sure. And where are we at currently?
I expect we'll finish the year somewhere around between 9 and 10 million.
And that we have a plan to build towards that 15 to 30%.
Correct.
Would it be wise for us, the board, to wait until we actually have that number before we pass this policy? So we're not sort of like breaking the policy when we approve it?
Again, we had this discussion. I think the way I read it was that, I'm pulling it up right now, was that it's a target, not a requirement.
So what you quick to, Ms. Hyman, is to say, you can put a sentence in there that says, once the district achieves a minimum of 15% fund balance, it shall maintain a fund balance of 15 to 30%.
I think that's a good suggestion.
I understand your point, and I think if you added the sentence, once the district achieves a minimum of 15% of a fund balance, it shall maintain. And then you can go into the rest of the sentence.
Right.
I think we should.
I think that inherently puts some restrictions on us if we have something that comes up. God forbid, I would not want to have what came up last year happen, and I don't think it will, but all of a sudden we need to pull a large amount out of fund balance to fix that. Well, not
The electric system.
Yes, and we just talked about, I know we talked about having a emergency repair fund, but there could be multiple failures. In West could have heating and cooling and roof all go in the same 3-month period in the winter if we get a heavy snowfall. And all of a sudden we're talking about $1 million thing. I wouldn't want us to just get caught. I think having the target is, it's a good target to have, but I don't think we should prevent future boards from making decisions.
And utilizing the fund balance to get through these last 2 years have maintained what we would not have been able to maintain.
No, not at all.
So I think I would recommend adding a sentence similar to what Dr. Mead said, and then still keeping that as a target.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, move to the next one.
6325 procurement, federal grants and funds. This is a new policy and it is required for EDGAR compliance. $6330. This is an update to our current policy. It's legally required. Our district is not required to hold an annual meeting. That is why that part is struck, because we are a unified school district. $6350. This is a rescind because the statute changed.
I have a question on that one. I still believe that we would want to make sure that our contracts use prevailing wage. Is there a mechanism in policy that would maintain that requirement in construction work that we do? That was a question. Is there one?
Mr. Ecker, do you know if there is any guidelines that you use now when we put things out to bid?
So we have a separate purchasing policy there's a purchasing policy for the board. This one is, if I recall right, specific to federal grants. And let me review it one more time, I'm sorry. Yeah, this one is specific to federal grants and what processes we need to go to for that. We have a different policy that isn't federal grant related, that has certain thresholds and dollar amounts.
So there is a policy that maintains the spirit of using preventing.
Correct.
$64.23, use of district credit cards. This is an update of our current policy. $64.24, purchasing cards. This is a new policy to TOSA. A purchasing card is like a credit card, but for a specific vendor. And Mr. Ecker was going to research if the district had any of these out currently. I don't know if that's something you had a chance to look
I
at.
think it was the other way around. I'm actually going to research if we have credit cards out.
Okay.
I believe we only have purchasing cards at this point, but yes, I did not yet research that.
Would that, whether or not we have the credit card, would that change what you would want the policy to look like?
It would not.
Okay.
6510. This is, we're updating to current policy to comply with Wisconsin law. 6520, update this policy. It is legally required. Policy 6605. This is new to TOSA because crowdfunding has become really popular recently. 6611. This is an update to our current policy for the Government Accounting Standards Board compliance.
This is a very important policy. Districts find themselves in trouble often by not managing and having policy around these types of things. So we're excited about this policy.
6620. This is also an update.
Previous statement was true for this policy as well.
6625. This is a rescind. It is outdated and will be replaced by 6630, which is the next one. 6630 is the cash handling and deposits. 6670. The current policy is being reformatted and is legally required. 6680, also being reformatted. And 6700, Fair Labor Standards Act. This is an update to our current policy. It's legally required and it differentiates between hourly and salaried employees. And that is my last one.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank the policy committee for their work. I know they had like an all-day retreat where they went through all of these. Thank Julia for her work in organizing the notes for us. And then also thank my board colleagues. I think it's clear that we all spent a lot of time reviewing these before this meeting. And so I appreciate that you guys all came prepared to, I think, marathon run through these today. So thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I may, Brzezinski and Ms. Bach spent an entire day from 9 a.m. to 3:30, I believe, going through all of these policies. We're not done yet. We're gonna be meeting again next week, Friday, from, I believe, 8:30 to noon, to continue to go through this. And you're absolutely right. Thank you for highlighting the fact that the entire board did read through all of these. Governance at the core of a school district is grounded in policies. And so we are thankful for your diligence in looking at this. The Summers deserve a lot of credit. And the leaders, our chiefs, they bring a lot of these changes to you. But I would be remiss if I didn't end by thanking the community. It was mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, Mr. Pinion also referenced that when the community works with us to bring suggestions around policy changes, we can work collaboratively with the community when those ideas are brought to us. We're unable to collaborate with individuals when they're unwilling or unable to meet us and bring those suggestions to us. So we want to thank the community, in particular the PTA area council, for bringing a lot of suggestions around 5120 in particular.
Time is 8:03 PM. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski, Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris, Ms. Heimer Roland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley, Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
And we are adjourned.